introduce everybody to Josanta Gray Emegano. I'll go ahead and let's maybe start off with the basics, Josanta, and if you can talk a little bit about yourself, about your company, and what you do for work, and what you do for what your title actually means.
Yeah, so thank you guys so much for having me. I'm super excited to speak with you, to share my journey, as I honestly had no idea, being a first generation college student myself, not knowing that this career even was available to me. But I am the founder and CEO, basically just meaning I am the top boss of my brand management and consulting firm, which is called Grayscaled Media. And Grayscaled helps businesses with two main services. One of them being I help brands get into your favorite stores. So when you go buy your favorite lipstick at Target, if you go buy your favorite deodorant or a shirt or something, or you get it from Sephora or Ulta, or maybe it's one of the sporting goods stores, someone has to help pitch those brands to actually get on the stores, to work with them to figure out, when you go and buy it for $20 and you're like, oh, this is super cheap, or, oh, it's super expensive. I'm helping that person figure out what that price point is supposed to be. And then the other realm that I work with, and I'll share some visuals here for you guys. I work on brand partnerships. So anytime that you see your favorite celebrity have their own makeup palette, their own lipstick, or maybe if you're thinking like a sports person. So obviously there's Air Jordan, but some of the other players might have their own sneakers or clothing lines. I put together those partnerships. I help negotiate on behalf of the talent or on behalf of the brand. And I figure out, what products do we need to make? How do we get those approved? So just a couple examples here. Gabby Douglas, if you're familiar with her, she's a gymnast and Olympian who's won many, many gold medals. I did a partnership for her and a cosmetics company called Beauty Bakery. And so I got to go to the photo shoot. I got to help figure out what colors we were going to do the lipsticks in, and figure out what Gabby looked like for those photo shoots. If you're familiar with the TV show Power on Stars, I mean, you might watch it, your parents might watch it, or if at the very least you're familiar with 50 Cent, I was able to do a collection of products on behalf of the show, because Power, the original series, is no longer on, but now it lives on through products and cosmetics. So I was able to, pick colorways, swatches, figure out like, how do we create an assortment that encompasses what we see every week on TV. Also, another Beauty Bakery collaboration, if you're familiar with Queen Naija, she had some lip products that she launched with Beauty Bakery, did the same thing that I did with Gabby Douglas, helping out with the photo shoot, picking out what colors we were going to sell to our customers and things of that nature. I also work on a magazine called Grind Pretty and getting their cover artists. So if you ever pick up an Essence magazine, Grind Pretty, or you're like whoever's on the cover, we have to actually set up partnerships and figure out when, okay, are they going to be on the cover for fall, or are they going to do the summer, and all that great stuff. So many other partnerships that I've done here. And also here's some just case studies of getting brands into stores, but wanted you guys to have those visuals so you knew what I meant by like partnership.
Thank you for sharing that, and how exciting it must be to kind of work with different people in this industry. What made you decide to go into this field?
So actually, a little bit of backstory. I originally went into college thinking that I was going to be a journalist. I wanted to be an on-air host on the red carpet, interviewing people at the Met or interviewing various celebrities. But in time in college, the way that they explained the industry was you needed to go to a very small market, go to Kansas, go to like Waco, Texas, somewhere like super off the grid, and work your way up. And I'm originally from Chicago. I graduated from USC, so I've been in LA for a while now. I couldn't imagine going to some super like small town. Like I'm a city girl through and through. So then kind of had a little life crisis. It was like, okay, this is what I want to do, but like, I don't want to do that. News and journalism can be very sad, as you can imagine. Like those journalists that are reporting on what's happening in Ukraine, or like constantly what's happening with COVID. Like, that's sad. And so I wanted to do something with my life that was a little bit more uplifting, and I bring joy. So when I started interning, my first job out of college was at a talent agency in the licensing department, doing exactly these partnerships that you saw. And I had no idea that was an option. And so I fell in love with it. I loved being able to be creative, inquisitive, and use some of that marketing tactic. So that's when I made the switch. It was mainly because I didn't want to be a journalist anymore. And that's totally fine. Whatever you go into college for, I care more about you guys getting the degree, and like, you'll use the skill sets in other ways. It's totally fine to pivot.
So was your major in college was it in marketing?
Journalism. So
Journalism.
I got a bachelor's in broadcast and digital journalism.
And you're still able to use those skills into this field, which is more marketing.
Yes. So the way I feel like the overlap happens is, in journalism, you have to be able to ask really good questions, and be inquisitive about like what's happening in the world. And then also just storytelling. That's essentially what marketing is. It's storytelling, figuring out how to position a product, how to communicate to the customer why they should buy this. Are they suffering from acne? Do they need a certain product? Do they need to feel faster? So you need to sell them a certain type of running shoes. It's all based in storytelling. So I'm able to take that skill and transfer it over.
What did your first job in this career, what was that? And can you describe how you got into, that first job?
Yes. So I went to a job fair, actually, and I kind of sat down in front of the recruiter for CAA, which is Creative Artists Agency based here in Los Angeles. It's a big talent agency that represents everyone. I think they have Will Smith, who, Oscars and all that, Will Smith, to Cardi B, to Gabrielle Union, to, I think they might have a Selena Gomez and Ariana Grande. So a vast like agency that represents all these celebrities, and they provide a bunch of services. They help them with their tours, they help them with their brand partnerships, the department I was in. And funny enough, I didn't want to work there. Like, to be honest, at the recruiting event, I sat down because this line was kind of short and I was wearing heels and my feet hurt. And so that was what was going through my mind. I had my sights set on a bunch of other companies, but lo and behold, he was there, and the guy was like, I really enjoy your story. I enjoy speaking with you. The internship program is actually closed, but I will open it up for you. Make sure to send me your resume tonight and I'll open it up for you. I sent the resume, but if I'm being transparent with you guys, at that point, once you go through college, you have multiple internships, so you get a little fatigued. So I was hoping to graduate and like get my job and start immediately. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. So I was expecting to tell CAA, oh, never mind, like, thanks for inviting me, but I got this full-time job making all this money at this other place. And that didn't happen. So I had to show up, be an intern for like $8 an hour. But ultimately, once I finished the internship, they did offer me a full-time position. And that's kind of what set me on the road of learning about marketing and licensing and doing those partnerships.
What other education or training do you have? Or is there anything that's required for the job that you do in addition to your bachelor's degree?
So I actually stayed at USC and got a master's in communication management. And I feel that degree is what helped me have my business. I honestly didn't know that I would be an entrepreneur. The only thing at the time when I was in high school and in college, I saw my parents go to work every day. They work 9 to 5, 9 to 7, whatever, and they didn't have their own business. But I feel like that master's in communication management helped me think better as an entrepreneur, because when you're an entrepreneur, you're multiple departments. You're accounting, you're cutting your paychecks, you're doing the actual work for the clients. I'm my own assistant. I go and run and get my lunch. You're doing everything for yourself. So it takes a different mindset and skill set to be able to run a company versus showing up for, your job. You do what you're told, you figure out how to climb the corporate ladder. So it's different. You get, when you're working at a company, you pay for, when you're working at a company, you get paid on the 1st or the 15th or whatever, every 2 weeks. With me, I set up my own pay structure. It depends on when I get clients and things of that nature.
Right, right. Did you encounter any other challenges on your path to where you are today?
Yes, I mean, there are challenges as being an entrepreneur and trying to balance everything. But then if you're thinking about when you're working at a company, there were just challenges of me being a woman of color. And I worked in a department where I was the only Black female. So I had specifically was tasked with doing a presentation to let my colleagues know, like in my culture, what type of partnerships were we missing out on. So I pointed out to them, Nicki Minaj has done something in high fashion. You have Fenty Beauty, you have A$AP Rocky, who's done different partnerships with, I think it was like a Gucci or Fendi or something. And so I did this huge thing where I audited and put my culture on paper of this is the pulse, this is what we need to do. And they told me, no, there's no money in it. Or no, this isn't, we don't find this of value. So there's certain obstacles that you're going to come where you're going to feel it in your bones of I know we have to do this. I know we need to move forward, but unfortunately, there are just going to be people who don't believe in you, who stonewall you. But from that example, I was vindicated because one of those examples that I had in my deck, and this is 5 years before, was Power and doing a licensing or partnership with them. And then I got to do it years later as an entrepreneur with a brand.
So on the flip side, other than of the challenges, what do you enjoy most about your job?
I honestly love the fact that no 2 days are alike. I think when you guys as students think about your career, don't always focus on the money, focus on the type of lifestyle that you want to lead. Do you want to answer to someone? Do you want to be your own boss? Do you want to have a family and be able to pick up and go to your kids' soccer games? Do you want to have multiple vacations and not be limited to a certain time frame within the year? Think about the type of lifestyle that you want to lead and see if your passions match up. So that essentially is kind of how I also, in addition to understanding journalism being sad, I watched my manager from an internship. She planned a vacation. Something happened, politically or whatever. She canceled her vacation and she came back in. And I was like, oh no, I would never do that. My dedication is not at that level. So I probably should rethink this as a career. But with my current job, I love that no 2 days are alike. I get to work with people and really help and educate them on how to do partnerships and get their products into stores.
I want to remind students just to go ahead and post any questions you guys have in the Q&A or in the chat. Here's a question that I see is, are there any practical skills that can help you be successful in your role?
Yes, being an advocate for yourself, be vocal. And that's actually whether or not you're going to be an entrepreneur or whether or not you see yourself working, at Apple or some Fortune or Amazon. One mistake that I often saw my peers make when you're trying to climb the ranks is not asking for feedback or being fearful of that. You guys go through processes where your teachers rate and review you all the time. You've probably grown and that actually is setting you up for your career. You don't want to work as an assistant or work as a coordinator for someone for 2-3 years and not know how they feel about you. Do they see something in you to get to that manager level, to get to that VP level? And I mean asking for feedback outside of those company appointed review periods, which will happen because every year you might do a review and then they figure out how to do your raise. I mean, if that review period is supposed to happen in October, then at the beginning of summer, sit your boss down or whoever you work for and say, hey, what can I do better at? Because the last thing that you want to do is work for someone, like I said, for several years and not know whether or not they see something in you, because then if they don't, you need to go find someone who does believe in you, or you need to go find another opportunity or job that serves you.
What kind of person would like a job like yours? For example, someone who likes to work with people or someone who likes to create solutions. What would you say is the kind of person that would like that job?
All of those things that you mentioned, definitely being a people person, not people pleasing, but just wanting to connect with other individuals. I am a problem solver. I love to get in and see like, okay, let me survey the situation. This is how to fix it. You have to be comfortable giving your opinion. I have clients ask me all the time, oh, what do you think I should do here? Or they ask me to go first and provide my thoughts and insights. So being able to just speak up is someone that's able to, especially if you're doing brand partnerships, the partnership is in the name. You have the talent, you have the brand that you're putting together. So someone has to mediate and make sure both sides are happy. You know, the talent might want Evian water at the photo shoot or like something crazy. And then the brand might only want to pay a couple thousands of dollars. And you have to figure out, how do I make all parties happy? You're a mediator.
Interesting. If you're talking to someone who's interested in this field, what would you suggest that they begin? Where would you suggest that they begin?
If you're interested in brand partnerships, then I definitely would recommend working at like an agency, a marketing agency, talent agency, just to get an idea of that side, because that's a different skill set. But then I also would recommend working for a brand. So if you're like into sports, there's a difference between Nike and Air Jordan and like LeBron James or Kobe having like shoes versus the rookie who gets an endorsement by Nike. Like there's a different, like those are two different types of partnerships. One, there's actual physical product with their name on it. The other is an endorsement. They might do a commercial of some sort and that's it. So I would say work at a brand or work at an agency. Both have different skill sets in their own right, but also working at a brand, you have a little bit more control.
Can you talk a little bit about what high school was like and maybe what skills or what things you learned in high school that really helped you for this career?
I actually was on my newspaper in high school. So I was committed to being a journalist for a while before pivoting. So that inquisitive nature and that translates over into my job today is definitely relevant. I also in high school was a dancer. I was a creative. So sometimes I have to find those creative outlets and put that into my work and not be so focused on like the business aspect of it. But yeah, with high school, I think as I talk about advocating for myself, that's where I learned how to do that. Because in high school, you have to, interview the coach after they won state of some sort. And you have to have a certain level of confidence to go up to another adult or another peer and ask them questions and be able to start a conversation. And then being a dancer, I think that's how I learned how to advocate for myself and my body. And my coach was also very hard on us of, if you have a problem, come talk to me, don't send your parents. Because sometimes, in high school, we have our lovely family wants to fight our battles, but you have to learn, especially during that senior year, you have to learn to find your voice.
What advice do you have for students? What is something that has helped you be successful in your education or your career?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think as far as like being successful in that education, it's always understanding that you'll never stop learning and being okay with telling people, I'm not familiar with this. I am familiar with this, but I'm familiar with this concept. and I can rattle and tell you all about it. But what the things I'm not familiar with, give me a second. I'll find out and I'll figure it out and share that information with you. So I think just from a success standpoint, like you should always continue to learn. Whatever goals that you have for yourself right now, some of you very well might achieve them while in college, shortly after graduating. And so you're going to have to reset those goals. And I went through that myself, where I had a goal to make a certain amount as far as salary goes. I had a goal to work for a brand, a goal to be a high-level executive at a brand. And I checked those off like very, very early in my career. And so I kind of was sitting there like, oh, what's next? I got to what is like the next, 20, 30 years look like for me from a career perspective?
Right. Oh, here's a question. Did you have anybody help you along the way, a mentor or anybody to kind of help you, guide you to where you are now?
Yes and no. I would say in high school, I had teachers that I could go to that definitely were like advocates, that also shaped my thought process when it came to my career, because I was fortunate enough to have my high school journalism teacher. She was very transparent just about her life, which was very helpful outside of, just you were coming in and doing our lessons. So I remember, never forget, she told us she turned down a job writing for the New York Times and ended up becoming a teacher. And so in high school, I'm sitting there like, you turned down New York Times to come teach, but for us? Like, do you want to come like work here? Like, oh my God, you could have been in New York. You could have been working for the New York Times and you chose like us. And so that in my mind is, as I shared with you guys earlier, you really have to think about what type of lifestyle do you want to lead? So that job at the New York Times didn't match what she wanted. She wanted to have kids. She wanted to have summers off. She wanted to not have to be on the grind as far as looking for stories. And so that's why I really emphasize, like, think about for your career, what type of lifestyle that you want to lead, and then fit it into that, because your thought process will change.
Yes, that's a good way to capture that. We just have a few moments left, and again, I want to thank the students who are on with us. I want to thank you, Josanta, for being on with us. Are there any parting thoughts that any advice that you'd like to give students, as we close out our session?
Stick on the path, your journey. Like, I know at this time, as you're thinking about high school and the life beyond, it's probably overwhelming. It was very overwhelming for me when I was in that position. I was a first generation college student. I'm asking my parents about like, hey, I have to fill out the FAFSA. And they're like, what's that? So I had to do a lot of things alone and didn't necessarily feel like I had many, many people to rely on. But, you guys are part of Fulfillment Fund. You have this access, like lean in and ask the questions, because people do genuinely want to help. And don't be afraid to, at this time, reach out to people that are within your specific careers that you're eyeing. If you want to be an engineer, if you want to be a writer, look for those local professional organizations, because one, they have scholarships also that are available. And two, they have people that genuinely can say, hey, if you're looking to be an engineer, here's some opportunities that you should look out for. So all of it really comes back to being at a point in your life of not being afraid to speak up for yourself.
Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate you, and thank you for sharing a little bit about your world and your job.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me, and I'm always here to be an advocate.